Oh my god, I can use the Obama pyramid. Yes.
I want to stick to my profile, but I'm gonna change that next time. Yeah.
Oh, really? You're going to change it next time. So we need to get a good view of what it is.
Oh, this is
Welcome to the Expounded Universe podcast, the show where we're going to be talking about whatever topic comes up in the end of the day, and then expounding on details about it,
lame.
our opinions at least. We're here. We're today going to be talking about a bit of a segue, because this podcast is going to be about more than just Star Wars Expanded Universe. Is talking about some of digital versus physical media. And I think it's good to start off with our pros and cons of what we think of digital versus physical, because there are some good stuff about both, and some things that would lean people towards digital more than physical in some parts and all that. So, yeah, I think that's a good opening topic. We've got, before I forget to introduce people, at Boreal Labs here, and Victory
Hello.
Valley.
Hey, everybody.
Victory Valley, yes.
Because we know that the Victory Valley you're talking about's in that profile picture.
No, I meant different things.
Right. So
Name's
it's the
still
other part.
pending. Name's still
Name's
pending.
still pending.
Or it could be I will change my name every now and then, just so I can confuse people.
What do you think are some pros and cons of digital
Are we
versus
doing
physical media?
intros first? Okay.
Oh,
I
you
guess
can
we
do
jump
an
right
intro
into
for
it,
yourself if you want.
Wait, like a school introduction?
Yeah, we can mess with that later. Nobody cares who we are.
Yeah, I thought I've already sort of introduced your names, and then you can just talk. Is what I thought is one of the
Yeah.
ways we can do it.
Yeah, the big news, I think, is the cancellation or the euthanization of the Stadia platform. Stadia, nobody knows how it's pronounced. Nobody uses, like 10 people use this thing. And, Google, this was like, they put a lot of money into this. They had like branded consoles and controllers and like a whole website and subscription service set up for this service. And I think they rolled it out. I'm not exactly sure when they started doing this, but it just didn't perform well. And, I think Steam still has a pretty iron grip on the digital distribution market. And I think, just on a more general kind of level, I think that, most gamers out there, were not enthused by the idea that all of their libraries would be sort of centralized and made intangible in like these cloud servers that are run by Google, especially with the track record for digital distribution, DRM, and content being stealth edited or deleted from people's libraries when either IP licenses run out, or if somebody wants to go back and retroactively edit some old piece of software because it doesn't meet like current norms or standards or whatever like that. And you could see from a lot of other people's images and videos that they post, people are very proud of their game collections. People love to have the boxes and look at the box art of a whole series of games that they remember from their childhood, or that they've loved for many years. And this kind of product kind of takes that away from them. It's just like, you just want to play it in the moment. You don't need to own anything. And this goes into the whole thing that's becoming more and more well known now. It's like there's an increasing movement to make physical ownership of things a thing of the past. And people just want everything to be controlled by these massive centralized electronic rights management systems. And those are as we're seeing, very subject to the whims of whatever the political and economic climate are. And I think people might not realize it consciously yet, but people are hoping and wishing to have a more sort of tangible grasp on their things. And they don't like, just having a contract with a company that could be nullified at any time, and they can just lose all their games if they, there isn't really any precedent for this yet, but we're heading towards the direction where if you say the wrong thing, or if you attract the wrong kind of attention, or if you upset the wrong kinds of people online, then various pieces of your property and rights can be taken away from you. And I think people want to try and push back on that as much as they can. They might not want to fight it individually. They might not want to fight it online or become part of a protest group or community or activism and all that kind of stuff. I think the easiest and most approachable way for most people say, I'm just going to buy the physical game on disc, and then I'll have it. It'll be mine forever, and very difficult for anyone to take away from me. And I think that's the way that we're going to be going with things for the foreseeable future. And failures of things like Stadia are just kind of a canary in the coal mine for this concept of industry. Callum, what do you think about all that?
Yeah, there's a lot. I think the main point there, is a lot of how intangible a lot of digital stuff is. Like for a lot of, as you say, game collections that people have as digital on Steam and online. That's definitely one of the things that if people are seeing signs of, like what you mentioned, Google Stadia closing the games, we've got an article up here, and that sort of stuff, then is any of our game libraries safe? Like, even if they refund gamers, what about all the hours that we put into the games? Like, especially how Steam's set up with achievements and tracking of progress in things, then a lot of what people feel is a personal sense of achievement for getting the achievements, and like on PlayStation, platinuming games, getting all the trophies, that sort of stuff will be at stake, because it's like, well, it's digital, they could change it at any point. On the editing things for being for a modern day, I think there's definitely a thing where, being in Australia, they've already done that with some games before they were released. So I think it's Grand Theft Auto San Andreas, or one of the Grand Theft Auto games anyway. They removed
I think it was San Andreas, actually, yeah.
They removed some options of what you could do in the game compared to what other countries received, because of the laws regarding video games and stuff, which to me, it's like, well, I don't know any better. I just played the game. But for people that are tracking it and stuff and want the actual full experience, I feel like that's definitely something where it's like, if you're going to give us the game, then just give us the game how it was made and don't tamper with it.
Have you had any experiences where you had a franchise or a game that you played when you were younger, and then it's re-released, or they made a new version of it or a sequel of it many years later, and they try to like retcon out some of the old content, or they edited some of the older content because it's no longer, desirable or appropriate? Like, I think they did a lot of this with some of the Star Wars stuff. Like when Disney sort of took over Star Wars, they tried to go back in many instances and revise and cut out and sort of rewrite a lot of things.
Oh, well, I haven't noticed anything particularly with the video games, since that was
There's
the
one.
example you took up.
Mass Effect 1. I did tell you that
Oh, yeah.
the DLC, when they re-release it as a,
Oh, yeah.
what was it? The collection thing. Then I checked if
Yeah.
it has the DLC. And it says they
Right.
didn't have that because the, what was it? The code was lost or something. But yeah, so
Yeah.
basically,
It'd have been so long
Unlikely.
since I played it, though.
A likely story. The code was lost. It's just gone.
Oh, yes.
yeah, but yeah, the point is that the game is not as whole as the original was. Unlike when you say you get it from, I'm not advocating for it or anything. Like when you get it somewhere an alternative site, if you get if you get my drift. I'm not sure if that was deliberate or not, but I still say that was regardless if it affected the game story or not. I would think that the DLC would have affected your experience of the overall game. So I think that was a loss in terms
Yeah.
of storytelling.
I mean, it's just a game comes out once and people like it for certain reasons, and then they re-release it, ostensibly hoping to get that same level of popularity with a new generation of people, and then they change it for reasons that are not usually related to improving the quality of the game or the gameplay experience. It's because various other social and political and other factors contribute to what people think should be in games, what people should consume, and what ends up happening, what we see. And there's plenty of buzzwords that everybody knows and has heard to death, so I won't repeat them. But when you change things that people love for reasons that are social, political, a lot of times you end up just getting burned, and people wonder why. And it's just not a good thing to do. And you have to ask, like, are they doing this because they want to make good games and good content, or are they doing this because it's leaning towards what some would call social engineering? And I think it's a legitimate line of inquiry to ask. Are these people's intentions? Yeah,
I'm thinking of Mass Effect, and like, I don't feel as bad about it because I can still go and play the original. But they could have just gone, we have the files in the original game. Why don't we just copy them?
Yeah. Well, the thing with that is that, some people make the argument and say, oh, if you don't like what Disney puts out, or if you don't like what these game studios put out in their new versions, you can always go back and play the old version. But, that's true for some of the newer games. But like, let's say, what if you're a big fan of, let's say the Lord of the Rings movies? Like, those are like, there's a lot of, sort of ancillary Lord of the Rings related, Hobbit related content that was on stuff like VHS, that was on like cassette tape, old comic books, things that are not very easy to, maintain into the future. As time goes on, more of those old books are going to be lost. They're going to get ripped and dirty, and, just the content, people don't have VCRs and cassette players as much anymore. You got to go to special stores and just know how all that stuff works. A lot of, younger people these days, like you try to ask them like what a VCR tape recorder, like what a VCR is. And like, people don't know. People haven't used that stuff in more than 10 years. And, a lot of that old content is on there. So, maybe with Mass Effect, you can go back and always play the original versions. But what about for some of the older stuff that people love just as much? But a lot of that is disappearing and not very easy to bring back. And
a good example is, like, I believe the original theatrical cut of Star Wars is on VHS, but it's not on any newer media because they created the special editions. And so something I would say is in favor of digital is being able to preserve some of those as digital files and having them to be able to go, okay, we know we can just copy these to a hard drive or something as a backup rather than it's lost forever.
Yeah, Star Wars is a good example. The original trilogy movies are a great example of that. Because like I never even saw the original, 1970s original cuts of the movies until many, many years after I saw the special edition. Because I think the special edition, what was it, like 1997, 8, something like that they came out?
Something like that, yeah. I only
90s.
saw the special editions as well as they were released. And there were multiple versions of the special editions too, which is like, oh, okay.
Yeah. But, my first versions of Star Wars, when I was a kid was the special edition. And so, when people talk about like who shot first, Han shot first, and like the scene in A New Hope, with the CGI Cantina aliens that they added, and Dash Rendar's Outrider that they added, and a bunch of new stuff that they put in the new movies. And like that in itself is not like a negative thing. Like that just they made changes. It is what it is. Some purists will say like you got to watch the original first, and then you can know what they changed, and it's important to appreciate the art. But like those in the scale of things that we're talking about, in terms of people's enjoyment of culture, that's a relatively, I think, minor and innocuous issue. But what I'm saying is that like it's very hard to find the original versions of these beloved pieces of media. Is the real point?
Yeah, and there's no way to actually pay for them.
A lot of times they just take them off the market and say you cannot buy this anymore.
You might be lucky to find some on eBay or something, but that's if people are parting with them.
Yeah, and like there's no guarantee that there will always be a dedicated subgroup of people who will devote a significant amount of time and effort to preserving these old forms of media. As this time goes on, and some of these people new people won't even be aware that this stuff exists. And the number of people that do know that it exists and are willing to put forth the time and energy and money to preserve it and put it out there on the internet, that's a lot of effort. Digitizing these old tapes and CDs and putting that on the internet and maintaining your website and sometimes paying for domain space. That's a lot of effort, and people do it because they love this content. It inspired them, and they want to keep it around as long as possible. And
yeah.
I think as a lover of art and culture, people should be motivated by sharing that inspirational content rather than just, whatever the focus group says will make the most money, please the broadest group of people.
I'm not sure if this relates to it, but I don't think that just affects movies and games, but there's also books, because you have to remember Amazon exists and they have apps for their books, right? You buy them online digitally and then you have them on your phone. So what happens if they close down the website, right? I mean, what would happen to the own digital books that you bought? I mean, am I making sense? Or
Yeah. Yeah, okay. Before I go into the book side, thinking of Star Wars and video games, there is the point of like if they make them whenever they get the Knights of the Old Republic video game, that they would change the story and the things from the original, and it's one of the big considerations of it because they've done that with other things in video games. Like, I haven't played the original Resident Evil, but then looking at the Resident Evil 2 and 3 remakes, in comparison of what people have said, there's definitely a difference there.
Mm-hmm.
And then when thinking about the books is a good point, because I have heard from EU Commander on Twitter, I talked to him a little bit about it, Kindle editions of some books like Kenobi and Darth Maul Shadowhunter have actually had the short stories that were included removed from the ebooks.
Oh, yeah, you did
because
mention
they've
that
been
one time.
updating to the Essential Legends collection version.
I think that's what I was getting at, because that there's not only the danger of what would happen to the books. I mean, regardless if a book are famous or not, someone worked hard on it. That would make it a rare thing, considering how many people would buy the physical of it compared to digital, because of its ease of use, because it's on your phone, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, phone or tablet, wherever you like to read it. People use e-readers as well as a separate thing.
Just to build on that point, like the smartphone tablet market, people, I think, we need to remember that as a medium of distributing content, and just the smartphone itself and the tablet itself, they've only been around for, I think, just about 10 years now. And the smartphone itself, quadrupled, just massively multiplied the potential market for a lot of these services. So now a lot of people who were not, like, before smartphones, it was a minority of people who used computers, desktop computers, for recreational purposes. Like most people, that were TV people, video people, or cassette tape people, VHS people. But like the kind of people who were like who would play games on computers and watch any kind of like popular media on computers, it was a minority of people in the early 2000s and the 90s. I remember myself, like I never even used the internet on a computer until I was about 12. I'm 35 now, and so that means
I didn't have a phone until about then, because I started going to high school and needed one for if something happened.
And like I remember most people had, like, until I was a freshman in college, which was like 2004 or 5-ish, most people had flip phones and those kind of like sliding phones. And like way up until like the early 2000s did we start seeing the iPhone. I forgot what year exactly iPhone came out. I can Google it.
2005, I think.
Yeah, I'd have to look it up.
Yeah, maybe it was 2005. It might have been the year that I started, because I remember that's when Facebook first appeared, and that's when the iPhone first appeared. And like that's when the big move of everybody from TV and radio and movie theaters to the smartphone, internet, social media environment really started happening. And it was very exciting at the time. Like I remember my freshman class in college or university to the rest of the world was the first group of people that were kind of allowed on Facebook, and it was still invite only. You still had to have a university edu email address to get onto Facebook. And it was like a super cool in club for a while. Then after year, they gradually started letting in. First, it was all colleges in the U.S., and then it was all high schools, and then it was all schools, and then it was everybody around the world. And of course, since it was no longer an exclusive club, a lot of the early adopters of Facebook, stopped thinking it was cool, and they moved on to other things like Instagram and Snapchat and other things like that. But the point is that smartphones basically moved everybody onto the internet, and so the people making content like movies and video games, and eventually even streaming and YouTube type content, had to consider a lot more types of people. In their audience.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Speaking of universities, I don't know if you guys had this, but in my college, we went from purely physical media like books and such, and then when I transferred here in another city where we are
Mhm.
now, then we were required to have Facebook so that we could have class group chats, like
Hmm.
just
Yeah, I remember.
if you have to ask a teacher, and then so on and so forth. And then there's also the fact that the teacher could just supply you with a digital version of the book itself. Like that's a big change. I think that
Yeah.
relates to the topic at hand. Like, like the digitalization of
Yeah.
things does not only affect entertainment or literature, but also education as well. I'm just
Yeah.
saying. I'm not
Yeah.
sure if that's part of the
And
part of
like,
the topic.
Yeah, go ahead.
that's good a lot for the expensiveness of a lot of textbooks that you'll get during school. It helps people to be able to access textbooks where they maybe couldn't afford it before.
Yeah.
I think that's a good part of that. But then at the same time, I think there's definitely an impact on technology on attention spans of people nowadays. There's a lot more instant gratification, and I don't know if a long-term study has really been done on how much screen time affects the mind, but it would be an interesting topic to look into if there is a study on that.
Yeah, I know there's been a bunch of studies on how screen time affects sort of cognitive development in younger people and attention spans, and whether or not that aggravates people with conditions like ADHD and things like that. There's been a number, and like another thing is that it's also a health concern in some ways. Like one of the bigger issues that people bring up is that switching to digital distribution for things like textbooks and class materials, it helps younger kids because they don't have to carry around heavy books all the time in their backpacks. So there's that
Yeah.
too, and like it's just kind of a signal for like the normalization of digitalizing a lot of this type of content. So like before, like to put something on a PDF, to have like your books on PDF, it used to be a big, like seemed like a very advanced thing. People would perceive it as being very expensive and very sort of upper class. But now it's more normal. So like companies, when they're thinking about how they want to market and distribute their product, instead of thinking, okay, well, the default is we're going to send out boxes of CDs and books. Now the default is, okay, first we're going to put it on Apple and Android, and then maybe we'll do a printing of some book later if there's demand for it. The normality has shifted, and I think that has implications too.
I think I may just add this on the book thing. Whereas before, the teacher would just give us a book, and then we have to spend money to photocopy it, and then to just digital. Like I would think that that's a point in the digital media. Digital media has a great use, but I think over reliance on it would be too bad, considering something like Kindle breaks down, or whatever book resources you
cloud
have.
services, I think, is definitely the way things are going, like streaming services.
Yeah, that was I was thinking. What if these cloud services break down? What would happen to all the I think expository or whatever?
And I think that the things are a lot more open to being edited on cloud services as well, because I think things like there's a Game of Thrones episode that there was a Starbucks coffee cup in, but then they later updated it to remove it.
Yeah, I remember that. That was
pretty funny thing, that one. But then for other things, they could easily just go, "Oh, we've got a special edition of this. Let's replace the old one rather than putting up a new version
Yeah,
of it
that
separately."
was. I think that's an issue in books too, because you could technically
Mm.
discreetly change things in a book, regardless of what the public sees it or not. It's kind of like a, dare I say, book burning. But I'm not heading that. I'm just a slight
Yeah.
comparison, I suppose.
Well, in a way, it is because it completely destroys the books. Like if you're editing out large portions of the books, then it definitely changes the experience.
I'm just
You know,
saying that digitalization of things and centralization of where you put things, like in cloud services or in whatever
Mhm.
you put, is there, is not itself bad ideally, but we don't live in an ideal world, and sometimes, things happen.
yeah.
Yeah, and like even stuff like I've got a good example of stuff here that I'm gonna share. There's a YouTube channel called Kineko Video, which is scanning and upscaling old film reels of anime. Because of your
Mhm.
profile picture, obviously we're interested in anime. I'm like, they have scanning and upscaling of the Super Mario Brothers anime and stuff like
Oh
that.
god, I remember that show.
If you're not aware of it,
It was so
now
bad, it
you've
was
become
good.
aware of it. Right
That's, I
thing.
think, the one where like all the like classic memes, like Luigi and Ouija and all those kind of things came from.
Yeah,
Well,
the whole point
basically,
is this is all on YouTube at the moment. Assumedly, they have their own copies of them that they could upload to an alternative site another time. But if YouTube goes down, it's the primary video
Yeah,
watching platform that people use, then there's going to be a whole lot of stuff that is lost. Because I know even some of my videos, I just go, they don't matter. I haven't kept backups of them.
yeah, there's
it's
gonna
it's a
be,
huge risk. Yeah,
Yeah,
if
so if people are
everything,
looking stuff, then yeah.
if everything digital goes down, there's gonna be an, what do you call this, dark age of arts, because there's gonna be literally tons of missing things that is in the
Yeah.
internet.
And the only way it'll get
Possibly.
preserved if is like a YouTube is big enough for someone to follow along and download all of their videos separately, or they've kept backups of their own videos.
And I'm not
Mhm.
just talking about the just the memes or whatnot. I'm also including, there's tons of documentaries in YouTube that are pretty great when
Yeah.
educational.
Yeah, people have done a lot of things in various spheres that will be lost. Because a lot of times people are going now as well, I want to learn something, oh, YouTube it. Or just look it up,
Yeah,
and it's easy.
yeah.
But if
I,
that's lost, then
I remember there was a poll that was done recently. I think it was done by one of the bigger poll houses. It might have been Morning Consult. I'm not sure which one it was, but they did like a study of like a couple thousand people, and they found that people from Gen Z, instead of looking up things like Wikipedia or looking for like written out prose descriptions or instructions for how to do things, what they would do is they would go to TikTok and they would look for a video explanation of things
TikTok,
on TikTok. So they don't
on
like so
TikTok.
the trend
of
now
all
is
things.
not to look. Yeah, is they said that they prefer video format messages. Like they don't like to read, according to this poll, they don't like
Mm.
to read instructions. They would rather have someone explain it to them in a video. And the place that they get a lot of this kind of instructional video content is they look for short form videos on places like TikTok. TikTok is a whole other can of worms that we can discuss another
Yeah,
time.
yeah.
But it
It's a
just
whole
shows
can
the
of
shift.
worms. It's like, do you really
Yeah.
trust the videos on there? You have to use your wisdom a lot with that.
TikTok has all sorts of deep, dark, spooky stuff going on, but we can
Mm.
talk about that later.
But on that topic, then there's a lot of looking at literacy of people
But
now and the amount, because a lot of the times you had to read earlier, but even during my school years, there are people that are like, oh, I hate to read or whatever, and then they just don't
Yeah,
read and they watch videos and stuff instead. And
yeah,
so I feel like that would lower the general literacy of generations as technology comes up and provides
that's not.
videos instead
I
of
don't think that's a bad
books to
thing.
read.
I don't think that's a
Yeah.
bad thing. You
I
you want
think
you want to
what
learn
what
through video, but but that's just another style of teaching.
Yeah,
Well,
I
I
think
mean,
my concern is just that people don't read books now.
yeah. Yeah, I kind of I agree with parts of both of what you said. Like, where I think that there's nothing inherently wrong with preferring a visual video format for learning, but there have been a lot of other studies, and like we keep saying studies, studies, studies. We can, I don't know, we can share or link to some articles on these topics like another time. But there's been research done, like you do retain more information, and that there's been higher levels of comprehension recorded from people reading carefully text about certain topics when they take the time to read the sentence. And there's better knowledge retention than if you're just watching 30-40 second videos on a topic and then moving on to the next one. You don't have time to really form, let those ideas sink in and attach them to your longer term memory. And so, like, I think for instructional videos about how to like make an omelet or something like that, a short form video on TikTok is a great way to learn those kind of things. But the real learning of the new skill, it comes from actually making the omelet and doing that, and then it becomes part of your what they call an engram. It becomes part of your long term memory.
And as you're doing that, you're rewatching the video as you make it to make sure you get the bits right and whatnot.
Exactly. Yeah. So like there's as usual there's a time and a place where both of those mediums are optimal for your goals. Like if you're in school and you're trying to learn something complicated like algebra or something like that, then sort of reading and doing and practicing is probably the best way to do it. But if you want to do something that's simpler, that has a few steps that you can learn relatively quickly, like cooking, then a video format's probably better.
And I've grown up being someone that reads a lot of books when I was younger, but a lot of fiction. So in the way of storytelling and how I've grown to now go, well, I want to create films and be a storyteller in that way. I still love how novels can let you imagine things how you want to imagine them compared to having a preconceived notion of what's visually displayed is how it looks compared to how you imagine it. And I think it encourages imagination a lot more as well.
Yeah.
Okay, this is just a segue, I suppose. This is just a funny thought that I had since someone mentioned TikTok. This is just a funny thought that I had. Like, what if you're a college student and then of course you're in a thesis class, and then like thesis class is so hard for you, and then instead of googling how to better write pieces, you go to TikTok, and then I would just imagine a video, one of those automated videos, that automated voices that go how to that kind of voice.
Yeah,
Are you guys familiar with
I'm
that?
sure people
like
are
the
doing
oldie
this
Microsoft
as we speak.
scam.
I could just imagine like how to write better thesis, and then there's a person there in a TikTok video doing something. That just makes me laugh.
What's going on,
sorry,
everybody? Here's how to write your college thesis. Step one.
I'm sorry.
Open up
I'm sorry for
Microsoft Word.
I'm sorry for creating a segue.
That'd be
because
great.
I just found it
No,
funny.
But yeah,
I
I
mean,
kind
like,
of wanted to go back to the scene games because I was looking at my notes again and going, you provided a couple of examples of articles where a game called Sin, which I'm not aware of, but apparently GTA 4 has been removed from Steam platforms in some places.
I think GTA is probably one of the like most well reported examples of this kind of activity going on, because like I don't play the last GTA game I played, I think, was Vice City way back in the day. But even Vice City, I think they did it with Vice City, because I know San Andreas, they re-released it with some changed or missing content, and Vice City, I know there was the whole kerfuffle with there was like an arms dealer character who wore a shirt with an American Confederate flag for non-Americans out there. The Americans, we had a civil war, back in the 19th century, and the side down south, they had a flag for their breakaway seceding states, and now it has become kind of it has become a hate symbol for people who are not white, and nobody wants to see it. Media companies won't allow it, and so Rockstar has gone back and edited this guy's shirt with the Confederate flag on it to just be like a blank shirt. And of course, a lot of the this is a great example, I think, because it really forces you to decide how firmly you want to stand on this hill of, you want to be a purist and not change anything ever, or do you want to, change some things that are, pretty universally recognized as being, offensive, justifiably offensive to people.
Yeah.
So,
And
I
think
personally tend to, go ahead.
Yeah, I don't think I've particularly noticed GTA 4 because it's still here. That's what I was bringing this up for. Is like,
Yeah, I haven't played that.
I owned it before, but then it's also still here, and I can look at the store page and it's there. Compared to something like, I also thought there were a couple of FNAF games that have been removed from the store, but there's ways to get them if you look up a code. Now, I
think FNAF is
things go.
Five Nights at Freddy's, I think.
Yeah, Five Nights at Freddy's. So there's one called FNAF World, which I think if you go to the store page, it won't come up with anything yet. It just comes up with Steam Store. And Freddy Fazbear's Pizzeria Simulator. That is there now. It used to not be there. But especially FNAF World is one that wasn't liked by Scott Cawthon, I think is the creator. And that's been removed from the Steam store, but I managed to get a code to be able to activate it, so I can still download it.
Can you give us some more background on this? Because I'm not familiar with a lot of those games. I think.
So Five Nights at Freddy's is a fairly well-known now indie game series about you working as a security officer and possessed animatronics are coming to kill you, basically. But then what they decided to do as a change from the norm of the mainline games is create an RPG, which might not be that good. I haven't still played it yet because I haven't got to it. They made it, and it looks pretty basic and stuff, as a completely different style of game to the original series, where you have you sitting there doing stuff, a lot more of the horror vibes rather than these other bits and pieces. And I mean, there might be some deep lore in there that I don't know about, but I'm not super into the deep lore of FNAF.
Did they edit out did they change the games, or did they just take some of them off the library?
No, you just can't get FNAF World now. Or you try to click store page and there's no store page for it. It doesn't exist on Steam. Apart from if you had a code to activate it or you already owned it, you could still download it.
Is it on Good Old Games or anything, or is it just totally gone from the internet?
I'm not sure. I would have to have a look, actually. There's a FNAFWorldPC.com that lists that you can install the game as abandonware now.
Okay. Oh, abandonware. That's a neat concept.
Abandonware. While we're talking about things, abandonware is good because that's a digital preservation of old games that you can't get anymore. And that you have websites for that. But yeah, I hadn't looked elsewhere other than Steam for it because I think at the time I didn't see it anywhere, and I didn't have enough interest in it to go, I want to actually install it. That's kind of but in the way of cloud services, there's some things where they have if you bought it, you can still download and play it, but if you didn't, then tough luck.
I'm not entirely against digitalization of things, actually, but it's just the way it's handled. The way I look at it is when you buy something, it's really yours, right? But the way how it is the way it is, or the way how things happen right now is you're just sort of renting it, and it's just a matter of time before or if or when they erase it.
I guess that comes to streaming and cloud services that you pay subscription for compared to if you could pay for something and download it and keep it. So, for example, I think there's definitely Google Play Books is a good example of this because you can download it and then you can open it up and get the EPUB file from it. Some other platforms, they don't let you download it. They just, you have to read it on the site or on the app.
Do either of you happen to know how it works with Steam in your library? Because like when you want to download and play a game from your Steam library, you like download it to a Steam folder on your computer, and so the game files are on your computer, and you can like put mod, files and stuff in there if you want. But if like let's say Steam discontinues the game, but you still have it on your local hard drive. I imagine maybe for some of the games, like the next update will cause the game to be deleted from your computer because it syncs with the Steam cloud server.
Basically.
But I can't imagine why there would be a reason why if you just disconnected your computer from its connection to the Steam updating, then you would still have. I think there's software that makes it so that you can't play it, or like you can get a local launcher for.
As long as it's a single player game, you'd be able to run Steam in offline mode.
Yeah, that's right.
And play it. I feel like it'd be a super dick move to just delete everyone's files from the computer.
I mean, like the only way that
so the other way I can see that is that they either do that sort of thing and refund you the amount you paid for the game initially, or they end up updating the game files so that they can run separately from Steam. Then you still need somewhere to download them from because you don't have all your Steam games installed if you've got a lot of them.
Yeah. I was just thinking like, because one of the games that I run, like I play some of the Star Wars Empire at War, which is like a huge game that's modded by like tons of people, and so every so often Steam will update, the workshops that you're subscribed to for that game. And if one of the workshops, if one of the mod teams decided to just nuke all their content and just leave the internet, then the next update would cause all of their content on your workshop folder to be deleted.
So, interesting. I haven't encountered that because I always installed mods for like Fallout and Skyrim separately anyway.
Yeah.
Skyrim at this point has like 100 versions.
Yeah, there's a separate. I wonder if they have to do separate ones for each version, because I know that they had to do a separate script extender for the special edition, and there's a separate set of mods on the Nexus mod site for them.
Yeah, I don't know how it works for Skyrim. I haven't gotten into that rabbit hole yet, but I'm super late with that, by the way. Only about 10 years late getting into Skyrim, but
it's basically
I think with Oblivion, for like us boomers who still play Oblivion, like you can go on the TS Nexus or the Nexus site, and you can still just kind of open up the data folder for your Oblivion folder in your Steam, and just drop in like the mod ESP files, and then they'll link up with the game.
As long as you've got your files there and all that, then that's the thing. And I think that what you're getting at as well is a lot of this sort of thing where we actually talked about it in the Discord server about Final Space being pulled off of all platforms and basically disappearing.
I was about to say that.
Yeah. This is a big one too.
Yeah. So this is a big one. I've never watched Final Space.
Neither have I, but
you haven't watched it? You're talking about you gotta watch it before it's too late.
Regardless if it's good or bad, I don't think it should be erased just because a company. What happened again? Did they sell it? I forgot.
Oh, they just want it as a tax write-off instead, for some reason.
So they use it to pay. They use it to pay something.
What exactly?
A tax.
Yeah, tax write-off. So they spend so much money off, so they can claim all that money on tax, so they're not taxed above a certain threshold.
That went beyond me, but sure.
So if you make a certain amount of money per year, then if you hit a certain point, you get taxed more. So if they spent all the money on this project and they're under that level of tax, then they don't have to pay as much tax, basically, as an organization.
Then why would they?
And that's what a tax write-off means. Because they're stupid. I don't know. There must be some deeper reason.
This looks like is this
because
this is U.S. tax rules, I think.
Yeah, I'm not very familiar with US tax rules, but I
Nobody's
mean, Warner
familiar with
Brothers is
U.S.
probably familiar.
tax.
I mean, I'm Aussie, so that makes it even less so.
Law is confusing for me, so it will just go right over my head.
But I think the main thing that I see here is this quote from the creator, Owen Rogers, is that it's like 5 years of his life, 3 seasons of TV, all this blood, sweat, and tears in it, has just become a tax writer for a network who owns the product.
Yeah.
Where there's definitely the point of what laws are in place and how companies should treat these things, but even as that is like in the digital world, this has just disappeared off of the internet
But
as a watchable thing entirely.
Yeah, if you scroll
Yeah, we
down
get-
there, Callum, a little bit to that second paragraph, or that second paragraph where the guy says, there are no, they're going to take it down and then it'll be gone forever. There are no more physical copies of season 1 and 2. No physical copies of season 3 were ever made. So if you have a copy, hold on tight. That's the only way the show is going to exist henceforth. Like, that's just what we were talking about. And there's going to be a dwindling number of people who are willing to do that. And then eventually,
individually burn
unless there's-
CDs or DVD.
yeah, unless somebody does that, and those servers are maintained and not shut down for being illegal or whatever, then this show will just cease to exist.
That one.
I think this show might have a large enough following that somebody out there will preserve it in some way, and it probably will get slightly harder to get over time. But I think it'll persist as much as any other show.
Yeah, I think because this had a bigger following, that's why it's been reported on so much. Because there's probably stuff out there that has been treated the same, but we just don't know about it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, for sure.
Like, there's tons of anime out there that just kind of appears, and so every Saturday, there's an anime block on in Japan, where they'll air the the latest, I want to say like small to mid-level anime, new sort of prototype shows, that they do seasonally, and some big shows get started there, a lot of people who spend a lot of time on the internet would be familiar. Pop Team Epic was a big meme show a couple of years ago. Shows like the Ancient Magus Bride was on there. That Blend S show was started as a seasonal anime show that became very popular on the internet. So some of the shows go big and they get second seasons and they go on from there. Spy Family, I think, started as one of these shows, and that took off. That's a huge show right now. But there's a lot of other shows like the three of us. We recently watched this really bizarre, really surreal show called the 500 million year button. That's just this kind of this VTuber 3D it looks like a YouTube kind of short show that somebody made where there's a whole thing you can Google it, but it's these shows, they go on the internet and they go on TV and people watch them or not. And some of them sink and some of them swim, but the ones that aren't as popular, they might have some kind of smaller cult following behind them, but most of them are just going to disappear forever. And because of the Japanese language barrier, and because Japan is just an inherently smaller market than the rest of the world, a lot of this stuff is just going to disappear and no one will ever know about it. And we know from a lot of some of these shows that if they did somehow have a chance to get transferred over to other markets, then they would actually have a lot of fans. Because I can't think of any at the moment. I'm not a huge anime person, but I know that there's got to be a couple of examples of shows that were kind of fallen by the wayside in Japan and then found their way over to the States or to other Western markets, and then they got a huge cult following. Yeah, and I know that happens with video games all the time.
And I think there's a point in there as well about how we have so much stuff that we're aware of now because of the internet and the interconnectivity of it.
Yeah.
That we have to pick and choose a lot more what we're watching for entertainment because we don't have time to look at everything. And so a lot of stuff falls to the wayside of a lot of people just because there's no time to watch it.
I don't think that either one of them is better than the other. because each one serves a purpose at the end of the day. It's just that the trend as it is going now is favoring the other than the whatever the leftover one.
Yeah, it's the particular business models of streaming services, and you subscribe and then you have to watch it, and it's constantly on cloud services rather than actually being something you can download on the computer.
I, I
It's
I- I'm
a
I'm just
comparison, I
saying
feel
that
like.
if this trend continues, I think we're gonna go on a full digital era now. We're just anything DVD CDs will just be gone and it will be saved somewhere instead of having a copy of it, like say in a hard drive in or and then burn into a CD. I,
I can
and I
see that.
and I think that's a bad thing uh because as much as digital physical things deteriorate over time, at least you can transfer them over and over again. And like
Yeah.
even
And
even
like
if
for most people, they wouldn't be the ones to download stuff and then put on a USB and plug it into the TV to watch it. So they're
yeah
kind of forced to pay for streaming services to be able to watch
yeah
movies and stuff on the
yeah
TV.
even if the internet is forever, the servers aren't. That's all I'm just gonna
Mm.
say,
Mm.
because the servers themselves are physical. Because once those things breaks down, it's gonna be goodbye internet stuffs or whatever is it
Well,
saved in the internet. So I'm,
well, people have to maintain
Yeah,
things too. But I mean, like when people say the internet
yeah,
is forever, what they really mean is people are hopefully forever. And as
yeah,
long as
I
yeah,
there's
suppose
a
I
will,
suppose
somebody out there will keep maintaining and re-uploading and
I suppose I
re-encoding all
could
that stuff.
I could
yeah.
rephrase that now. Shouldn't I? I should rephrase that. Like the internet is forever, but the contents of it is not forever, because eventually some of those are gonna be erased, because either way to, I don't know, give space to give way or something, because
Hmm.
there's only there's
Yeah.
only a finite space, no matter how big I think you can save in the internet.
Yeah.
I'm not I'm not an expert on that, but that's just what I think though.
Yeah.
So
And the internet
Yeah.
will get bloated after a certain amount of time with so much being uploaded to it.
Yeah. Well, just like, there's a certain amount of sort of bandwidth that people have for content. And, as just the same with our own kind of memories, like you don't remember every little thing that happened to you in your life. Like maybe something you'll see will remind you of some old thing that you hadn't thought about in a very long time. And like the internet is kind of modeled after, the way like our brains work. It's a network of hubs and servers that are constantly running information back and forth between each other. And like people hopefully will be around to continue maintaining that network and adding new servers to that network and making it faster and making connections between some places better than other connections depending on people's demand. But there has to be a will to maintain certain types of content. And if like we as humanity decide that we don't care about this anymore or we want to get rid of this, then it'll be gone. And if there's a minority of people who still want that content, it'll take more effort on their part to maintain that stuff. And eventually that effort will dwindle as those people move on or disappear. And so like I think in that sense, you have to sort of maintain the will to preserve the parts of the internet environment or the information environment that you want to see maintained, because it's not going to maintain itself, at least not with our current
Yeah.
technology.
Well, yeah, it's like I've been thinking about cyberpunk worlds and stuff recently a bit more than I have in some other times. Like in Cyberpunk 2077, well, there's an example of they brought out an anime and the game brought the game a bit more popularity. But
Mhm.
as a lore detail of it, the internet actually crashed and then it was recreated basically by corporations that have finer control over
cups in Metal Gear Solid 2.
it. Yeah.
Yeah, I remember there is an interesting study or article or something that I saw recently where like they looked at the internet as it looked in terms of like traffic to websites in like 2002, and then they looked at it in 2020, and it was just like there's so much like a huge amount of the traffic that went to like places like GeoCities and to just random websites is now like completely concentrated in places like Facebook and Instagram and Twitter, and like they're just like these massive, you know, giant, super highways of content on the internet, and all this traffic just kind of goes through there. Like it's like you ever look at a night map of the earth, a night photo of the earth, and you see like the big cities, and they're like these huge points of light, and there are like all these lines and little points of light surrounding them. It's like that with Twitter and Facebook and YouTube. And like a lot of the other smaller content doesn't get as much attention now because like they're like Victory was saying, like there's been a very much a huge corporate takeover of the internet. And I think that like back to what we were saying before, smartphones and having specific companies have basically their hands on the wheels of such a huge driver of what controls internet participation has caused a lot of the internet traffic to become more centralized, which you can argue about whether or not that's a good and productive thing or not. I tend to think it's not as good. I think we've definitely gone from an age where the internet was a Wild West kind of environment to what it is now, where it's basically just your social media portal, and sometimes somebody will link you to another independent website, which social media has pretty much taken over the internet as we know it. But
Ideally,
yeah, go ahead.
ideally, I think that centralization can be, I think, good. But yeah, we don't really live in an ideal world, because that's the sad part of it. Dang it, my brain is not working.
It happens.
I'm sorry.
Yeah,
A lot of
I'm
stuff.
sorry,
get
I
good.
lost-
You're losing content. You got to get people to like maintain your servers in your brain.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Steam
my
just
you
like
got to
brain,
deleted a
feed
bunch of
them.
stuff.
That
my
dinner
brain
wasn't
is
enough.
filled. My brain is
Steam just
filled with
demonetized
Lucy
half
and
your brain.
yeah, it's filled with Lucy and Davis pictures.
Oh my god.
I'm sorry.
Because I mentioned Cyberpunk Edge Runners.
It's topical. Oh, is that
Quick
the joke
last
with the
minute
valley?
Yeah, that's what I was thinking of with the
I
valley.
didn't.
And the
I
picture
actually
that is
didn't
going.
think of that. I thought of like an actual valley.
I mean, yeah, that's probably the original intention. I think, yeah, we've all sort of come to the same sort of understanding about it. There's good things about digital media with regards to preservation and a lot of things happening, but the way some cloud services and stuff doesn't do it the way that it would be most beneficial, I would say, for preserving stuff, especially older movies and things. And physical is really good because then you physically own it, you can look at it any time, and it looks, actually the point we didn't touch on was it looks really good in your collection.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, it's
that's
a lot of people, enjoy having a complete collection of all their favorite media, and that's like a fun thing to do, a fun thing to put together. And
Yeah.
you have that, and it's nice as any other collecting. People collect all sorts of things. Would you say that a key takeaway from this topic is that when you're thinking about all the creative media out there on the internet and how it has impacted your life and your ideas and how it's inspired you, do you really want focus groups and corporate suits at places like Disney and Microsoft and Google to be the ones who decide what happens to your media experience and your content library? Do you really want them in charge of it, or do you want you to have more control over that as much as possible?
Especially
I think
because
most
they could
people,
have someone
are going to come
they
out.
could have someone new come in and just go, "Yeah, we don't like this, change it," and then they update it and change it.
But that's exactly what happens a lot of time that we've been showing.
Yeah. And that's the thing, yeah.
And the
Any last
problem is that
things?
once they make these changes, especially with the older media, it's very hard to go back.
Because especially people that are just being introduced to it will see the one that's on the internet, not, oh, here's a physical copy of this. they have to dig deeper for a lot of things. And I think a lot of people don't do that either nowadays because there's so much media out there that you have to pick and choose which ones you watch. There's also the type of people that just go, oh, I'll watch this show, and then just have it on and watch it and probably enjoy the show, but they don't look any deeper at it than the surface level. Yeah, that was fun to watch.
Oh yeah, speaking
Which I
of
think is a comparison of what I would call someone as a nerd versus as more of a casual fan.
Well, I think most people, when they're in the mode to watch, videos or movies or anime or whatever, they're already, doing so to relax and for escapism and, to because they're not working, they're already in sort of a relaxation, lazy mood. So the last thing I think most people want to do when they're sitting down to watch some TV or watch some videos, is like, gee, I'm going to go on a 5-hour internet quest to find the true version of this thing and, spend a lot of time and mental energy doing that. Nobody's going to do that except for like, the highest, percentile, very, motivated people are going to do that. And like I said, like that group of people, is always going to be dwindling in number. So, that's something to keep in mind. If your concern is maintaining, content as it is for as long as possible, it's never going to get easier.
Yeah, for sure. And there's definitely stuff I do that with. It's like, oh yeah, I'll chuck this on and it'll be done. But yeah, any last points that you want to hit on that we haven't yet?
digital and physical media complement each other. I think that's the main takeaway point here.
You can get behind that. I think that's
elaborate.
a good.
Yeah,
Yeah,
elaborate a bit more since you just framed it that way.
I think
I didn't
boil
edit
that point down to ¿Por qué no los dos? Why not both?
Yeah, because I mean, it may be expensive, but I think it would literally save whatever you're trying to save, whether it's books, games, or movies. I think if it's save on both, because since digitalized things really doesn't what do you call it, erode, unlike physical, in which the copies becomes I don't know, worse.
Deteriorate.
Yeah, deteriorate. Yeah, that's the word I was looking for. The copies deteriorate. The digital doesn't. So you could ensure the safety of the art. I'm just gonna call them art because games are art too. It's just a culmination of a bunch of things. You could ensure the safety of an art by having a copy of them both rather than just preferring one to the other, because the physical things deteriorate, so it may be lost over time, and then case in point would be it would have to be restored like the old movies. I'm thinking of one movie that was restored, but I forgot what. I think
Was
that
it
was
Gone with the
Nosferatu.
Wind?
No, I think it was Nosferatu or something. I know it was a vampire.
Yeah, there's a few movies that have been restored and like upscaled and everything, because we're still discovering what actual film can produce. Because if we have the original film, we can produce still 4K footage from it, whereas if we have digital storage, then we can't upscale it as easily.
I didn't know that. That's interesting.
Yeah, see if none of those movies would have been lost if they had internet back then, right? Because then they could have just saved that somewhere else, and then the copy would just remain there for that to be distributed or to be sold somewhere else.
Yeah, early Doctor Who episodes, some of them they were running out of physical film, so they rewrote over some of it and lost some of the episodes.
If I said it well enough, I'm terribly sorry if I didn't, because that's why I said that the two complement each other instead of you have to pick one or the other.
I've just been making backups of like videos that could be removed. Like there's some YouTube videos that have been removed because they were taken down for copyright or anything as well, or for whatever reason that I've been now making sure to download and make backups of, just because they're interesting, and some of them are like behind the scenes information on Star Wars and stuff.
Yeah, we also want to hear what you think about this topic,
Yeah, we want to hear about like what you think about this topic. Have you had experiences with hard to find old content or pieces of lost media? An experience with anything that we sort of talked about. I'd love to hear from anyone listening and watching about anything that they've done, or if you want to weigh in on a particular topic of the point. I think, of course, in the nature of this being limited in time, we didn't have the time to expound on every single thing in detail.
I think what the biggest example of media, what is it? Preserving media. Kenny Lauderdale is a good example of preserving that, because since he not only finds things, but he also shows it, and then
Wait, who is this you're talking about?
Kenny Dale. Yeah, that's where I heard of
Yeah, like
Kaneko
let's
video from.
let's show that up
Bee-
on screen so
Yeah,
people can
I'm
know
the
who
Beast.
that is,
just-
because
you
I'm not
know,
familiar with that. Yeah.
the Beast guy. Release the Beast. I think I showed that.
But people listening won't know that.
Yeah, most people. Yeah, let's just in case
This
there's
is
anybody
him.
out there that doesn't know.
He
Yeah,
talks about a bunch of lost
Obscure
media
things.
and obscure
Oh, that's
anime.
interesting. Yeah. We can
And
just,
so
you know,
there's a
shout
way of
out
raising
for-
awareness as well for that. So shout out to him. And then he also have I think it's something like that. Discount VHS World, it'll come up. On his second channel, he just puts up little clips of stuff that he's found. And that's really cool as well, of being able to preserve stuff.
Which I think is a good example of preserving media.
Yeah.
Physical and digital.
Oh yeah, I'm making sure to share the audio because we got to just look at this as things of. This is why
that
you
the
want to
penguin?
preserve audio. Yes, it is.
That's the penguin.
Oh, yeah. What is this? Oh, I remember this. Yeah.
There we go.
I love how the penguin is a gun.
That's why you need to preserve things. It's just fun. That's
also
at the end of the day.
Yeah,
because you get to see
that 99.99% of the internet had not seen that.
So there you go. Check out Kenny's Discount VHS World and Kenny Lauderdale, because you get to see and hear about things like that. And there's also a video about they had a promo that they made before they made the anime, but then they never made the anime because the promo didn't take off.
I remember that. I watched that. That was kind of weird.
I think I saw in the video list, there was like that guy in like a fedora hat and a black suit that had like that weird kind of, you know, diamond shaped smile with the lips on it. If you go back into that page, but I remember, you know, I'm in Japan, and you know, like that was a big campaign that they were doing for a while, like back in like 2012 or 11 or something like that, where like they used that character. You have to show it, and there's nobody's gonna know what I'm talking about unless you see it.
Yeah. I guess that was on the VHS.
It was on Kenny Lauderdale's page, yeah.
Kenny
but
Lauderdale
it was the video that said like it was like the anime that was promo, but it got canceled before it even started. Yeah, that one, the one that the anime nobody bought. Yeah, that's the one.
Yeah.
Towards the.
I'm being blind now. Oh, this one, yeah.
That's the one. Yeah, you see, he's advertising that tea. I remember that ad campaign, you know, was running in Japan for like 6 months, and like at every ramen shop, every restaurant, you know, like you had this weird guy, you know, advertising this. It's black oolong tea, and like the thing is that it's good tea, and like the thing is like, oh, it's got special, you know, polyphenol chemicals in it that burn fat, you know. And you know, like the same thing that you read like tea does for a lot of things, even in the States. But it was this very strange ad, And this guy, he had like Batman animated series Joker teeth and his hat and all this kind of thing. And
he does look like Joker, doesn't he?
Yeah. I'm sure that they were inspired by the Joker from that cartoon when they were making this guy. But he's a real creepy guy. It's not clear what his deal is. I don't even think he has a voice. But it's not hard to imagine why nobody hopped on board with this anime and it got canceled before it even started. Because it wasn't even an anime. He was a glorified mascot character.
That's sometimes all you need for an anime. You make the mascot character into a main character, and there you go.
Basically, yeah. But as everybody knows by now, Japan is a very wacky, crazy place.
What?
So,
I
Asia
never
in
would have
general is
thought that.
yeah, it's wacky, it's crazy, and
Asia in general is just crazy. Each country hates each other. I think that's the point there.
it's true. It's true.
Each country doesn't
regular-
want to admit that they're related to each
battle
other.
royale over here.
Yeah, battle royale originated in Asia.
Hashtag jokes. It's true. I don't think
Hmm.
that movie concept would fly anywhere except Japan.
I mean, yeah.
Well, then again, they made the
does
Hunger Games, which
whatever.
was kind of the same thing, sort of.
Yeah, you can make whatever.
That was
Yes.
a long segment.
But you can't have all the content in just one episode. We gotta
No, we have to space it out.
space
Good
it
thing
out.
this content is just what's for this topic. So, yeah. Do you want to say see you first?
Yeah, I think we're gonna say ciao to this episode, and we'll catch you all next time. Of course, let us know. If you have any games or you want to ask us any questions, for possible topics. We talk about everything. We all like the old classic Star Wars and its media. And
Even Rule
I'm based
34.
in Japan. I'm based in North Japan. Callum's down in Australia. Victory's in the Philippines. We all love games. We all love anime. We all love media, and we try to keep up with what's going on. So ask us any questions you have. Let us know if there are any games that you played that you can't find anymore, or anything like that. Make a comment in the comment section, and we'd love to hear from you. And we hope that you'll keep watching, keep tuning in.
Great.
It's my turn. Okay. Thanks for watching, whoever is watching, and I'm gonna make some meatballs.
Well, that's a spicy meatball.
Yeah.
Everything said has been said by the one before me.
Yeah. Okay, quick side note. I have some old CDs from games that I had on Windows 95 that I've copied onto a hard drive to help
Oh, okay.
just keep them.
I have
Um,
photo albums. That's a good simple way
Yeah, we
of
didn't photos as much.
yeah, but I'm just gonna mention that at the ending now. Preserve those memories. And I'm pointing at the camera that's not even on.
Yeah.
That's all I'm gonna say.
It's okay. We can see your finger in our spirits. The salad fingers.
Ooh.
The Edward Scissorhands.
So yeah, thank you
Such a
guys for joining
moisture.
and watching. This is a new thing compared to my previous content because I'm just going to be talking about more media in general and not just Expanded Universe. And we'll see how this goes. If you guys like it, then let me know as well because I definitely keep doing this. And if you guys want this on other platforms, then we'd be happy to figure that out.
Yeah, we're just
It'll be
having
good.
fun. Just having a
we're
good
just having
time.
fun.
We're
Oh,
we are learning on this journey just like the rest of you. So we'll hope you'll stick around as we get good.
How
talking
is it
about
said
this
again?
world.
Auru. And I'm waving at the camera.
What are you,
Uru.
Richard Nixon.
Aru
I'm
is a
Aru.
kangaroo.
Oh
Aru.
my God. All right.
Auru.
Signing
I'm
off.
waving at the camera.
Well, that's a wrap.
We'll catch
Click,
you guys
clack.
next time. Uru.